Nevada State Route 169 is located in the northeastern part of Clark County. State Route 169 begins at exit 93 off Interstate 15, continues south through the Mawapa Valley, and includes the farming communities of Overton and Logandale. It ends at North Shore Road in the Lake Mead National Recreation Area. Let's take a look at some of the people and places and sights along this rural slice of District B. And just a few miles west of 169 is the Logandale Trail System, 45,000 acres of stunning southern Nevada scenery. And of course, the place has trails, more than 200 miles of them, for nearly every type of recreational usage.
They love it. I mean, it is a little slice of heaven that you don't even know about until you literally come over that road, you know, and it's like, wow, it's here.
Elise McAllister and Bonnie Levitt are massive supporters of the Logandale Trail System. The pair are employees at Partners in Conservation, a nonprofit organization that bridges the gap between rural communities and government entities to develop recreation and promote conservation on public lands.
You have all manner of OHV use that uses it, and then you have hiking, photography, picnicking, camping. We've had a couple of marathons here.
The Logandale Trail System offers stunning views and scenic vistas, with majestic red rocks and sweeping sand dunes rising from the desert floor. Home to hundreds of species of native plants and animals, exploration opportunities are plentiful for human guests.
On busy weekends, there's 40, 50, 60 different campsites here, and people literally, you know, find a flat spot and pull over.
Situated adjacent to the more well-known state park at Valley of Fire, this place was once a secret area of seclusion and leisure for Mawapa Valley residents until a couple decades ago when off-roaders discovered the trails and convinced the Bureau of Land Management to designate the Logandale Trail System as public lands.
That's the wonderful thing with public land, is that it really is public for everybody. And so since they started working with the BLM back then, and all these structures and stuff here are kind of from that time period, and then the reputation's grown, and internet and everything's just really highlighted it.
Hardcore Jeep and rock crawling enthusiasts are frequent visitors, but any four-wheel drive vehicle will reward a Sunday driver with spectacular panoramas and a bouncy crawl over well-trod trails. Clark County Public Works is responsible for the road leading up to the trailhead, but improving and maintaining the Logandale Trail System is truly a cooperative effort. Volunteers work with Elise and Bonnie on cleanups and routine maintenance. In the past 15 years, more than $2 million worth of infrastructure, including global positioning, indoor restrooms, fencing, and blazed trails, are just some of the man-made amenities found at this Clark County gym.
And we like to use volunteers to do as much of the work as possible, and that way we like to have what we call horizontal education, where people get involved in something and they learn while they're doing it.
The Logandale Trail System is located just an hour away from downtown Las Vegas. Visit logandaletrails.com or their Facebook page for a main loop trail map, photos, and much more information on this pristine piece of Silver State paradise. State Route 169 is in essence the main street in the communities of Logandale and Overton, and there's a lot of Nevada history in this area. Interesting people with interesting stories. Let's learn a little bit more about this place, the old Logandale School.
And Lou Adams and Lillian Frainer Adams, they donated all this property. They donated the property to put the building on.
The Logandale School opened in 1935, a learning facility for elementary school students in the Mawapa Valley. Today, the stone building is still used to teach lessons, as a preschool for Valley children. Local members of the Art Guild meet weekly in an old classroom, but most notably, the old Logandale School is a museum chock full of cultural and ancestral photos and artifacts, remnants of the rich history in the area.
And once you know me, when I set my teeth in something, I'm like a bulldog.
Virginia Lanny Tobiasen, known to one and all as Beezy, is a one-woman walking, talking Wikipedia of Muddy Valley history.
Can you believe that?
Beezy and Robin Mon are the driving forces behind the Old Logandale School Historical and Cultural Society, an appropriate acronym of OLSHACS.
History is so important, and this valley still has so many old families that live here that we're finding there's such a disconnect from our young people to their ancestors. We're finding it even among the school and the pirate pride that we've always had. And so what we're trying to do is just bring it back, that these were real people. They gave you your heritage.
His name was Hugh Lord, and he was bound determined that that water would never ever come up to his house.
OLSHAC's mission is to restore and preserve the historic buildings and artifacts in the community. Less than 20 years ago, the old Logandale School was slated to be torn down, just another forgotten and neglected lost slice of Nevada's pioneering past.
Show their talents.
So that's when Beezy got busy to save the building.
It was in probably 1998, they were going to demolish the building. Clark County School District said that, you know, there was asbestos in it, and they were just going to doze it and get rid of it. But the school was literally falling apart. And then I've always collected all this stuff, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to fight for this building because we need a museum for this community. And so it took me 12 years.
Beezy's love of the valley and heeding her mother's urging, Beezy spent years researching, writing, and compiling stories. She co-authored 3 extensive books about the people and places in the Muddy with her friend, Georgia May Bagshaw Hall.
Do you know that you have a ghost in this building? And I said, well, yeah, I do. I know it, yeah.
Like many old buildings, the old Logandale School is said to be haunted. A young girl who drowned nearby is said to lurk in the school. You might expect her to be located in the hair-raising basement. Instead, she's a friendly apparition and spends her time spooking visitors in the main hallway.
Well, and we've had a paranormal group contact us. They love the old buildings, and they've been going around the valley, and they called me and asked if they could come. They've come twice, and the report I get afterwards is, don't be afraid, that everything's very friendly, and we did have action, but it's all friendly. And now I don't mind being here, and I can be here alone.
Afraid.
My husband will not come here at night with me.
The old gymnasium still looks much like it did when the boys' basketball teams were winning championships in the 1930s. It's now a meeting place, wedding hall, and gathering spot for the entire community.
This room here is something that I've always wanted to do because it's a Native American.
This room is dedicated to the contributions of the native population. The Paiutes and Mawapa tribes played formative roles in early development in the valley.
Indians were such a part of this valley. They worked and at first hassled right along with the settlers here, and then became very much a part of their lives.
The old Logandale School and Museum is open to the public Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Just an hour's drive from Las Vegas, this place is located at 3011 North Mawapa Boulevard in Logandale, Nevada. It's a great way to learn more about this remarkable part of the Silver State.
From everybody that's come in, I've never had one person say, oh, this place is no good. You know, it's junk. It's beautiful. We're real proud of it.
Many of the buildings here along 169 have gone through many names. Back in 1938, when this gymnasium was built, it served the students of Mawapa Valley High School, and it was known as the New Gym. Now it sits on the campus of Mac Lyon Middle School, and of course, people around here call it the old Overton Gym.
The gym has always been the Overton Gym. It's even on the out front of the building. It says Overton Gym. I played football, basketball, baseball, and track.
During your years on the court there, I hear Virgin Valley used to kick your butts quite often.
Oh, not that often. We held our own pretty good with Virgin Valley.
Ben Robison, class of 1961, remains a proud Mawapa Valley pirate and still reflects fondly on his athletic and scholastic accomplishments that took place in this historic gymnasium decades ago. Constructed in 1938, the old gym's Italian Renaissance Revival architecture was a classic design. For more than 40 years, the gym was home to all high school and community athletic events, until the new Overton Gym opened in 1964. Today, the stately structure hosts Clark County School District and county parks and rec programs nearly every day, and remains a vital part of the fabric of the Mawapa Valley community.
And unless you have been in a small town and understand small town community and relationship to schools, you won't get a feel for what the school means to a community.
Dr. Larry Moses' Mawapa Valley roots aren't quite as deep as Mr. Robison, but the longtime educator was the principal at the new Mawapa Valley High School for 7 years before retiring from the Clark County School District. Dr. Moses was one of the original members involved in a nonprofit organization dedicated to saving the place called the Society for the Preservation of the Old Overton Gym, or SPOOG.
I think Ben and some of the guys came to me and said, you know, we have the old Overton Gym, which is they're threatening to tear down, and we need to restore that.
That was 2001. Over the next few years, the members of SPOOG raised nearly $900,000 through fundraisers and government grants. Thousands of hours of work, mostly by local volunteers, helped bring the old gym back to life. Much of the successful restoration was due to the community's sweat equity, and in Dr. Moses' case, a few drops of blood.
Because I've never been in construction in my life. Now, the writing of the grants was easy for me, and the presentation of the grant was easy for me because that's something I did. I wrote and I did those kind of things. But I actually picked up hammers and began to knock walls down, and I learned that you don't leave your hammer on top of the ladder when you move the ladder because it falls off and hits you in the head, and I did that 3 times before I learned that lesson.
All the time I was growing up, a lot of my classes were up here in this room right here.
The second floor weight room is stocked with donated health and fitness equipment and is available for public use for a small fee.
This was part of the squad room for the football team. And when you came up here, you always wanted to.
And Ben remembers the stench like it was yesterday. The Pirate football team's old squad room is now a mere dance room, with locals offering lessons to younger dancers. Today's Gary Batchelor Gymnasium at Mawapa Valley High School is a palace compared to the old gym. The blue and gold colors and swashbuckling logos are sources of pirate pride for current students and for the community. But for old-timers like Mr. Robison, the modern additions to the old gym don't erase the old memories, even the painful ones.
It ended right over there.
It ended right over there?
Yeah, I got hit playing basketball, broke 2 ribs and ruptured my spleen. That ended it. I had a small scholarship to go play at Dixie College. And I still went to Dixie College, but I didn't play basketball. That ended my basketball career. The old Overton Gym is located at 353 West Thomas Street in Overton. For more information on this place, visit www.oldogym.com. The town of St. Thomas lived a glorious life and died a glorious death. It started out as nothing and eventually became submerged, part of one of the largest man-made lakes in the world.
St. Thomas is named after Thomas Smith, who was sent by Brigham Young, the president of the Church of Latter-day Saints.
Despite her lofty name,
Over 100 years.
Sky McLean is more comfortable digging her boots into the ground. The National Park Service ranger leads hikes to the fascinating St. Thomas site, which was once a thriving Old West town. It's now a ghost town in the Silver State, rising from the depths of Lake Mead, which once covered the entire valley. In January of 1865, the Church of Latter-day Saints leader Brigham Young called Thomas Smith to lead an expedition. Mr. Smith's hardy pioneer pack consisted of about 9 or 10 men and 3 women, and settled in this area to grow cotton and provide a friendly respite for Mormons traveling between Salt Lake City and Los Angeles. St. Thomas was established in a strategic location less than 20 miles from the Colorado River. The nearby Muddy River provided water that was used to irrigate crops, and an established canal system delivered water to the town.
What we're walking around right here.
Hiking the
is a
well-trod Tamarisk-lined trail for a mile or so leads to the 47 features that still remain from the lost city of St. Thomas.
So this is one of the most prominent features here at St. Thomas. This is the Hanig grocery store and ice cream parlor.
In 1870 or so, the original St. Thomas settlers were stunned to learn that their village wasn't located in Utah, but in Nevada. Lincoln County officials demanded back taxes from the pioneers, who were faced with a difficult decision to leave or pay the levies.
They had to go back to their leader, Brigham Young, and ask what to do. And so he told them they could vote, and if they voted to leave, he would release them from their mission. And in fact, that is what happened, and only one family, Daniel Benelli's family, stayed behind.
10 years later, in 1880, other Mormons returned to the area, and the town was reborn. Cisterns were dug and installed, which provided drinking water.
Over time, people were still faced with communication issues. There were no cell phones or telephones. There was no electricity. They had to communicate with each other by word of mouth or the mail that might come in. They also had no plumbing, no running water. They would go to their cisterns that held about 6 months worth of water and draw water out of the depths of those 15-foot deep wells.
Around the turn of the century, St. Thomas continued to grow, and these artifacts are reminders of the early hardships and triumphs.
This is a 150-year-old community, so a lot of things came along and went, and then settlers would return. And as the railroad arrived in 1912, that brought their abilities to actually build the schoolhouse and build the hotel out of brick. Some of the homes were built from wood. Initially, many of the homes were just out of adobe and mud, and they made bricks out of that.
About 500 people lived in St. Thomas. Streets were constructed, businesses were born, including the Gentry Hotel. And of course, town founders needed a place for education.
Well, I actually hear some school bells ringing, so I'm thinking maybe that's where our next stop should be. Let's head off here to the left, and we'll go down to what is left of this 3-story school.
The rounded Art Deco steps from the old St. Thomas School are still remarkably preserved. One can imagine students going to class in the 2-story brick building. Built in 1915, the school continued to educate students from grade 1 through grade 8 until the early 1930s. Ranger Sky McLean quotes a former student, Marva Ray Perkins Sprague.
I remember all my teachers, dear Anna Arnold, Miss Birch, and Vera Whitover, were special in my life. The many parties at school, church programs, classes, Christmas was looked forward to. Mr. Peck, a railroad official, always brought cases of huge oranges. How we eagerly awaited that treat.
Far above the crest of any other dam yet built by man, or likely to be built for years to come.
The beginning of the end of St. Thomas was Hoover Dam. The massive federal project miles away created the floodplain that would eventually submerge this valley and force residents to abandon their town, their homes, and their way of life.
People seemed very happy to live here. Of course, they were faced with the change that happened when the Hoover Dam was being built in the early 1930s, and they had to give up their lands through the appraisal process that the government established. And so they reluctantly accepted their fate, that yes, the little town of St. Thomas was going to be no more. It did take about 5 years for the waters to eventually reach St. Thomas. And so during that period, I'm sure there were a lot of discussions amongst the neighbors, but eventually many of them tore down their homes and removed them and rebuilt them elsewhere, whether that was into Overton or they just sold it off as salvage.
St. Thomas has risen above Lake Mead 3 times, in 1952, 1965, and emerged permanently from its watery grave in 2002. In fact, Lake Mead still covers the region a few miles south of the town site. St. Thomas is located inside the park boundaries of the Lake Mead National Recreation Area and is a popular spot for hikers and lovers of Silver State lore. Visit nps.gov for more information. Probably the most stunning location along 169 is this place, the Valley of Fire. A Nevada State Park, this place is on its way to a record-setting season. Park officials estimate 600,000 visitors will visit the Valley of Fire this year. Dedicated in 1935, the world-famous Valley of Fire is the oldest Nevada State Park. Its name is evident by the magnificent red rocks and sandstone formations that were shifting sand dunes since dinosaurs dominated the landscape 150 million years ago.
So over the years, erosion from wind, but primarily water, has continued to shape the landscape into what we see today. As I touched on, this is Aztec sandstone. That's considered the softest sandstone, so that's why we get so many strange, whimsical, and carved out pockets and formations here in the park.
Coming to work at the Valley of Fire, Chris Johnson's office is one of the most unique places on the planet. The undulating landscape is a stunning sensation. The vivid colors are electric and can seem to be ablaze. This recreational paradise is a destination for everyone, from hardcore hikers and campers to short-term shutterbugs.
So the most popular activity is definitely going to be hiking, camping, picnicking, and just enjoying the scenic vista points, enjoying the visitor center / museum. And this park really attracts a wide variety of people. Some of that probably due to the proximity to Las Vegas. You get a lot of people out here that might not normally go to a national park or a state park, so it kind of introduces them to that whole world. And this has really become a internationally known park at this point. A large chunk of our visitors are actually from European countries, Asian countries, so we get a lot of people from abroad as well.
Popular with Hollywood producers, this Silver State gem has graced the silver screen many times.
And numerous filming projects here. And the professionals probably had the biggest impact on the park, if you will. Star Trek Generation, I believe that was '94. The one where, spoiler alert, Captain Kirk infamously dies, falls off the bridge. That was filmed in the Fire Canyon area. Transformers was filmed in the park. I believe there's some shots from Casino. And these days, numerous car shoots, fashion shoots.
Many of the daily visitors make the short 58-mile drive from the glitz and glamour of Las Vegas to enjoy a different style of stunning visuals.
Are you seeing it? Do you get the elephant?
Is that his trunk?
Yeah.
Elephant Rock is one of the many popular locations in the park. The namesake pachyderm seems to be soaking up the sunshine in his craggy home.
This is the Rainbow Vista overlook. We're looking down at what's commonly referred to as the White Domes area. Generally, that's considered the most scenic part of the park now to a lot of people, probably the most unique part of the park. As we can see, it's where you get all the multicolored formations, really stark contrast to what we see down on the valley floor.
And the White Domes area was once inaccessible to many until a road was constructed in 1994. Providing an exceptional park experience for all ages to enjoy is a vital part of the Nevada State Park's mission. Valley of Fire's harsh setting means only hardy desert plant species survive, and the expected rattlesnakes, lizards, coyotes, and foxes dominate the animal population. But the most asked about Valley of Fire critter is, of course, the bighorn sheep.
Yeah, a lot of people are shocked to hear there's any kind of wildlife at all out here, and what looks like this bare and incredibly harsh climate. I guess the most exciting for most people is going to be the desert bighorn sheep. Pretty commonly asked question is, well, where do we see the sheep? Where are they at today? Where are they hiding? Short answer is you can see them all throughout the park. I mean, I've seen them down here where we stand. I've seen them on the west side of the park. They're generally more active at dawn, but still, it's just kind of right place at the right time. Some people camp here for 2 weeks, don't see any. Some people drive straight through and see a big herd.
For more information on the natural beauty that is the Valley of Fire, visit parks.nv.gov. We hope you've enjoyed this look at a few of the features along Nevada State Route 169. We encourage you to take the short drive from the Vegas Valley, have a hike, enjoy some gorgeous scenery, and learn a little bit more about the history of Nevada and our Mojave Desert and Clark County. I'm Randy Swallow.